Hi, everybody, and thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. And if you happen to just find me from scrolling around, I hope you'll hit that subscribe button and help me out here. Um, I think Trump is really, we've known that he's been in mental decline for a while. We've sometimes questioned his sanity. He's over the top now, and using that term to describe him, I realize we use it a lot. But for those of you who haven't been privy to some of his Truth Social postings, he is now, of course, he's threatening to have Barack Obama arrested for the Russia hoax, even though a Republican-led Senate Intelligence Committee investigation led by Marco Rubio determined that, in fact, Vladimir Putin, Russia, was working to help Trump win the election in 2016. And if you read the Mueller report, you can see that and everything. And we know that Putin's been doing this all three elections. And this time, Elon Musk had to help him because they failed in 2020, as I've said, because it was paper ballots with mail-in ballots because of the pandemic, which is why they panicked and pulled the mailboxes out of the ground in heavily Democratic neighborhoods and were dismantling $2 million a piece mail sorting machines. They were desperate because paper ballots are harder to cheat with. So we know this. We instinctively know it. The evidence is there. I mean, come on. People have gone, but we're indicted for this stuff. We know this. So he's now so panicked over the Epstein story, the new information that's coming out, that he's over the top. So he's going to have Barack Obama arrested. So what did he do? He put an AI-generated video or pictures on Truth Social of he and Barack Obama sitting in the Oval Office together. That must have been an actual picture. And then he showed agents throwing Barack Obama, the former president, to the ground and dragging him up to have him be arrested. The president of the United States is posting this on his social media site about one of his predecessors. Barack Obama has not been credibly accused of, or charged with, or convicted of, or any crimes. This is just Trump desperate to hold his base. So this tells me they might be doing some internal polling that shows he's in a free fall with people with whom he's never been in a free fall before. No matter what he's done, they have been willing to tolerate it, pretend to believe his denials, all of that stuff. So you can always tell by his reaction to things what's happening internally and how over the top he is. The other thing is he's desperately now trying to get his racist, white supremacist base all ginned up and to support him to cut, as a distraction from the Epstein stuff, which I think is going to bring him down. He's just in denial right now. And so he is now insisting and demanding, this is so inappropriate, it's not his place to do this, but he's going to withhold the help that the federal government needs to give to the Washington Commanders, the football team, if they do not change their name back to the Washington Redskins, a name that was rejected several years ago because increasingly people felt uncomfortable with it because it seemed racist. And so, the folks that were launching that campaign to change the name made their case. It took a little while, but, the powers that be said, okay, we get it. And they changed the name. And that's appropriate, and that's fine. And you don't need the president of the United States to have anything to do with that. Thank you very much. So now Trump, as part of his effort to be as racist as he possibly can and as authoritarian as he possibly can, he's going to prevent them from having their new stadium if they don't change the name back to something that was deemed racist and inappropriate, something that was outdated, because we are more aware now. That's a good thing. And again, it should have nothing to do with him. So he's looking for things to drill down in the most egregious aspects of the gross psychology, that mental psychology that MAGA has. The racism, the hatred, the misogyny. Because if you're racist, chances are you're probably a misogynist too. The two kind of go hand in hand. Women know this. Especially women of color who get both. A friend of mine who sadly passed away a few years ago, a few years older than me, a professional woman in media. And we would have these talks about sexism and racism. And I asked her once, point blank. I said, so when we were, sitting there having some wine, I said, in your career and in your life, which was worse, or could you tell? I mean, so because she had her stories, I had my stories, and I said, did you know when it was racism and when it was sexism? And she's like, the truth is you don't know, because she was getting it both, which is why I think that I would bet on women of color now. I would rather vote for them. I think they're more responsible, because if you're in a position where you can run and have credibility, if you've had to maneuver both of those things, you're probably tougher and smarter than men of either race and white women, because you've had to do it twice. So, one day I hope that changes. I really do. I hope that women, and especially women of color, I hope that we can be as mediocre as white men and still do as well. But right now, that's not the case. So Trump is now doubling down on this stuff, showing the only Black president we've had being thrown to the ground and arrested. He thinks that's funny. Wanting to insist and demand and blacklist or blackmail the Washington commanders to change their name back to a name that was deemed something that we didn't want to do anymore. Okay. And so he's looking for things to do, to drill down on, to try and get this racist, hateful base up. That's kind of terrifying. For one thing, it's obvious. So I think he's in this place right now where he doesn't know what to do. He knew he had to throw a bone by announcing that he was sick. He's been sick for years. He had to announce it to make his opponents here, the people pulling him out, know that he's negotiating. He's trying to prevent additional damaging information to come out. I think the Wall Street Journal piece on his Epstein friendship and what they were up to together, the Wall Street Journal piece was a shot across the bow. There's more to come. So I think he's still in denial, but he's still playing the game. He's doing this thing. He's teetering on this. He's scared. He's desperate, and it shows. So he's doubling down on this stuff. He's thinking, if I have my MAGA base, no one can hurt me. They can't dump me. He's like, well, yeah. So that's what he's fighting for, because he sees his MAGA base leaving him. He sees his professional MAGAs like, Steve Bannon and well, you lost Elon Musk. Elon Musk is obviously working with Putin to put this out there, because all of a sudden we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein again, and there wasn't any new information. It was just Epstein. I mean, it was just Elon Musk putting it out there because, as I've said before, he and Putin have decided to fire Trump because Trump ceased to be useful. Putin installed him for one reason and one reason only, to deliver Ukraine, and that's not happening. And he counted on Trump being able to have intelligence on this stuff so he could feed it to him. And Trump was not told, and he completely missed the Zelensky drone strike coming, which humiliated Vladimir Putin and decimated his attack plane air fleet of jets. So, Trump has outlived his usefulness, and he's clearly not well. And all I care is about his golfing and grifting and, becoming an oligarch himself. And this was all just to stay out of prison, as we've talked about. But now the doubling down. So he's doing that. He's supposedly suing the Wall Street Journal. But what he doesn't realize is that's going to open him up to discovery, and he does not want that. So all of this is still his kabuki theater. I think when push comes to shove, he won't know what to do with this lawsuit. He'll drop it. He'll do something. But he's got to keep doing these things. He's desperate to hold his crazy MAGA base. Because again, I think internal polling is showing that it's in trouble. In the past, he could lose people on the fringes, or people who maybe voted him, maybe the country club set that voted him for, economic reasons, but not that red hat wearing, toothless, got your MAGA flag on your truck, the people that go to the rallies and believe it all. The ones that buy the gold sneakers. So he's thinking, if he can control them, he can hold on. He still wants to have that chit to play. He still wants that power. So he's holding on to that and trying to keep them from drifting, because in the past they haven't drifted. Something tells me polling is saying that they're drifting. So he's becoming more extreme in this stuff and more desperate in this stuff, because they are his currency. Even though he's sold them out many times, these people are his currency. The people who are going to go, yeah, change that name back from Commanders to Redskins. The people are going to be like, yeah, take that Barack Obama, throw him to the ground, arrest him. They don't know why, just, do it. He's trying to get those people to stay with them. He's afraid of losing them. He never thought he'd lose them. So I find that very interesting. That's why I like to do these videos, and I like the feedback I get from you guys, because we're sort of watching this and predicting the next steps, because that'll help us win. That's what strategists do. You put together a strategy, but you got to be watching the other guy, right? Connecting the dots, peering around corners, trying to predict what they would do, what they will do next. And Trump isn't a complicated guy, right? And I've talked before about the business term Bayesian updating and what it means. And this is a real simplified, maybe oversimplified definition, but it means, like, look, if you want to look at what a company is going to do, look at what they've always done. And I think that applies to people in these positions as well. And it applies to Trump. So he's doubling down on this stuff that's worked for him before. Things that we thought would do him in ended up helping him with this crowd that he's trying to hold on to. Mocking a disabled reporter, going after John McCain's POW status, bragging about, Megyn Kelly, blood coming out of her, whatever. He knew what he was doing. He knew who he's trying to get to stay with. That's why he said I could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and I wouldn't lose any votes. He's at that point now where the Epstein scandal is starting to close in around him. Again, when you look at all these articles that people are putting up there, that's not new stuff. It's just a reminder, because before there was so much out there that people couldn't get their heads around it, or something was keeping the media from reporting it. But it's almost like everybody in the powers that be nodded at each other and said, okay, time to go, time to do this. And they are. And they are. So Trump, Custer's last stand by taking these extreme measures. Now, what I am concerned about are these ICE agents. Can he get enough of them? Remember, he's got, they're supposed to have, 10,000? He's got all this money in his big, beautiful bill that he's taking from regular Americans who need it, literally taking food and healthcare away from people for his own army. We don't know who these ICE agents are. And my friend, Dr. Jeffrey Grammer, wrote a piece for Salon. Take a look at it. And he's on Twitter at Jeffrey Grammer, Grammer. He is a psychiatrist and a retired Army colonel, a decorated veteran. And he and his team would take his team out literally to the battlefield and treat soldiers who were having big emotional problems, of course, when you're in a combat situation. And he did 8 years at Walter Reed. So he wrote a piece looking at these new ICE agents and kind of warning that this new crop of ICE agents that we don't know about, that we don't know them, they're probably attracted to this job now for completely different reasons than the existing previous ICE agents. It might be driven a little bit by maybe like law enforcement, some patriotism, some sense of, order. But this new crop of ICE agents that we don't know about, these masked thugs, and they're all signing up and getting, we don't know who they are. And so Dr. Grammer warns about the psychology of these people and how dangerous they are. And they are drawn to these new jobs because they like what Trump expects them to do. So in some ways, I feel like we're in a race against time. Will they be loyal to J.D. Vance? Or will there be some other thing? Are they being, where are they coming from? Or have they been picked beforehand to install into these jobs so that there is this militia that will do the bidding of whomever it is now, whatever group of people? It won't be J.D. Vance, and he's controlled by Peter Thiel. It could be Elon Musk, Putin. There will be some other entity or group of rulers who will control them, because I don't think that MAGA is going to really be there for J.D. Vance. He's not going to get that cult following at all. And I think that that's part of the problem here. They've got to find another way to control us. So these ICE agents worry me quite a lot in terms of, as Dr. Grammer suggested, what are they attracting? I'm wondering if they've already been culled and are ready to go, and now will be put in these positions. They've already been picked, and they will be the private militia of these powers that be, with J.D. Vance as the figurehead. See what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm concerned. But we do know that Trump is acting desperate, and he's trying to hold on to the people that like this stuff. But the people that like this stuff probably are loyal just to him. I don't know if they will be to J.D. Vance. I don't know if he's quite as good at it. Plus, don't forget, J.D. Vance is married to a woman of color. That is not going to fly with the MAGA cult. Anyway, those are my thoughts for today. Check out Jeffrey Grammer's piece in Salon. Follow him on Twitter. And I believe the article is that what he wrote, the opinion piece he wrote for Salon is his pinned tweet. So go check it out. Thanks.